we didn't expect. Handle it with care. This could be significant. Visibility's dropping. Scan the perimeter.
2 a.m. screen, uncovering something ancient and mean. Got my smartphone scrolling through the feed, planting the seeds of a new conspiracy. Exhaling sweet clouds from my blueberry vape, looking for answers, hoping for an escape. The truth is out there, that's what they all say. The truth is out there, that's what they all say.
Hello, welcome to the Average American Joe. I'm your host, Chip Michaels, and today I got a show for you. Right, I've been watching because trying to come out with content. It's like, well, what's everybody not already covered? I mean, if you're looking into the 21 or well, in America, the 11 missing or dead scientists. It's hard for me to cover something that hasn't been covered. And so to keep myself from feeling like all I'm doing is clickbaiting you to listen to something that you've heard around a million different times from a million different sources, I figured, hey, before we start just eating piles of, well, slop from anywhere, I would definitely say that Candace Owens and Baron Coleman so far have the cleanest of, well, they're trying to polish turds to present them to you as best they can, but I mean, what they're dealing with in general. I mean, it's if the people weren't incredibly rich and in some of the most powerful positions in the entire world, a lot of which, I mean, a lot of Nepo babies running around in those places, I would say, like Washington, and well, that's really the biggest cesspool is that our where they make our laws, where they discuss what they're going to alter to it. Like it is just a giant. I think calling it a cesspool is actually it's too minimal. Like it's too myopic to just call it a cesspool. And so I don't even really know where I stumbled on this, where it came up, but generally when something pops up that I don't recognize or a name that I may have heard a million times, but I just have never really looked into what people are saying about. So it was one of those things where I think I heard Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Heard it, and then I stumbled on his theory of everything. Theory of everything. No, scratch that. Theory of stupidity. So I'd like to just start off with just say, like, we've all felt it lately. You wake up, you pick up your phone, and within 3 minutes of scrolling, you feel like you're reading a script from a movie that's been rejected for being too unrealistic. I mean, just look at the headlines. From this week alone, you've got, let's see, a Tennessee highway ramp was shut down because 1 million bees spilled out of a truck, creating a literal bumper to buzzer traffic jam. So that in Singapore, a teenager is facing criminal charges for a viral video where he licked a vending machine straw. And in Oman, they're still dealing with the fallout of a camel beauty pageant where 20 contestants were disqualified because their owners injected the camel's humps with dermal fillers, like Botox, to make them look poutier. We're living in a world where people are paying to lie in coffins in Japan to find Zen, and where the highest levels of government are issuing bans on specific AI models because they're worried the software is becoming too agentic. It feels like a circus. But what if it's not just a series of random over-the-top events? What if there's a specific mechanical reason why the world feels like it's losing its collective mind? Today we're going to step back from the chaos of the 24-hour news cycle to look at a theory written from a prison cell in 1943. a theory that explains why the crazy we see today isn't an accident. It's a sociological law. We're talking about, that's right, Dietrich Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity. So to understand this, we have to understand the man. So Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German theologian and a sharp-eyed critic of the regime in the 1930s and 40s. While sitting in a Nazi prison cell, watching his country slide into madness that defied logic, he realized something terrifying. He realized that the greatest threat to a society isn't actually evil, it's stupidity. Now, when Bonhoeffer talks about stupidity, he isn't talking about IQ. He isn't talking about someone's ability to do math or pass a test. He's talking about a moral defect. Here is the first major point. Stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good man than malice. Think about that. If someone is evil, you can fight them. You can expose their lies. You can use force to stop them. And because evil is self-aware, it usually carries the seeds of its own destruction. People feel uneasy about evil, but stupidity, you cannot fight stupidity without reason. Now, Bonhoeffer wrote that facts that contradict one's prejudgment simply need to be believed. When the facts are irrefutable, the stupid person just pushes them aside as inconsequential or incidental. They are utterly self-satisfied. And if you try to argue with them using logic, they become irritated and go on the attack. This brings us to the second and perhaps most relevant pillar of this theory. Stupidity is a social phenomenon, not a biological one. Bonhoeffer observed that people aren't usually born stupid. They're made stupid. It's called a psychological law. He noted that every strong upsurge of power, whether political, religious, or even technological, infects a large part of the population with stupidity. It's as if the human brain has a circuit breaker. When we become part of a movement or a crowd that holds power, we surrender our individual critical faculties. This is why we see people doing things that make no sense to an outsider. Like the Botox camels or the straw licking video. These are just isolated weird stories. They are symptoms of a person who has ceased to be an individual. Bonhoeffer said that in conversations with a stupid person, you feel like you aren't dealing with a person at all, but with like slogans or catchwords that have taken possession of them. They're under a spell. They are a tool being used by a larger force. Think about how this applies to our current headlines. We see massive political spending on AI, super PACs, where billions are poured into creating the perfect catchwords to trigger our tribal instincts. We see people retreating into digital echo chambers, where seeing is no longer believing. Because deepfakes and algorithmic management have blurred the lines between fact and fiction. When you see a headline that makes you want to scream, how could anybody believe this shit? Or how could anyone act this way? You're likely witnessing Bonhoeffer's theory in real time. The person in that headline has likely traded their independence for the safety of group identity or the thrill of the power surge. They've become blinded and misused and abused in this, like in their very being. So, how do we fix it? How do we wake up? The world seems to be under a spell. Bonhoeffer's answer is the hardest pill to swallow. He says that instruction will never work. You can't educate someone out of this kind of stupidity. You can't fact check a person who has already decided that the facts are incidental. The only thing that works is an act of liberation. For Bonhoeffer, that meant an external liberation had to happen before an internal one was possible. People have to be snapped out of it. Like they're in this power structure that it's feeding them these slogans, and they have to be forced back into their own individuality. We have to stop arguing about catchwords. Start looking at the power it's generating them. We have to stop being automations who read from a script and start being people who can look at a million bees on a highway and say, that's a mess, without checking to see which political side the bees are on. The next time you see an over-the-top headline, don't just laugh it off as though the world's going crazy. Ask yourself, what power is this serving? What slogan is this person repeating? And most importantly, am I under the spell too? This has been The Signal and the Noise. Stay sharp, stay independent, and for heaven's sake, keep the Botox away from the frickin' camels.